helping you with real estate, Mr. Mike Johnston.
All right, so right here we get a login to our FormSimplicity, and at the very top it shows Idaho Realtors, so we have that information that's there. Now, let's first off set up a few different little things for us. So I'm assuming that maybe some of you have not logged in before, so what we're going to first do, see if I can do this special little flashy thing. Yeah, so you can see where my cursor is. I think that's so cool. You can come up here under Preferences. Now when you click on the Preferences button, it's going to bring up and it's going to show certain things that you can modify or change. Joe, I'm glad you're on today. I was going to mention something that happened yesterday about faxing out of this document stuff, so we'll cover that part a little bit later. So in here you can click on the account information. And the parts that are grayed out, like this right here, and the office and office address, those are things you cannot change. But if you wanted to change them, you can contact the association office, whether the one in Pocatello or the one in Idaho Falls, whichever one you're part of, and they can modify that. So if your name is spelled wrong or you'd rather have your full name or modify it, you can do so with them. So you take a look at that. Then the next thing to take a look at would be your email signature. So just double check that you have something here, because if you send something out, this would be the default. So you'll have those different things. Now the last thing under Preferences, we're going to just skip up here to Contacts. So in the very top right, this is an important part. If you want to have some of your stuff be automated or to save you some time, you can import your contacts right here. So here I just have 2 contacts in there right now. So I deleted the other one so I could show you how this happens. So right now I only have 2 contacts. You can click on the import function. And when you do that, it says you can import it from Gmail. And if so, then you sign into Gmail and it grabs them. Or from Outlook, and you can browse for a file or a vCard file. I'm going to just do this from Outlook. It's actually coming from Gmail, but I didn't want to log in and do that, so it would take long because I have a lot of names. So I'm just going to show you a sample here. So I went into Gmail and I highlighted some of the names and I told it to export it as a CSV file. So you can do that and export it. So then you just come here and you click Browse, and it's going to let you try to find where that particular file is. And I'm assuming that you can see that on the screen too. So I browse here, and then I'm going to just find the sample CSV file. And I click Open. And then now it has it there. So I'm going to click Import the contact file. Now this can save you a lot of time if you have a lot of contacts, you want to put everybody in there. So here are the different people I'm importing. So there's 6 people. I'll just click Select All. And I'll click Import to 6 contacts. So if you had 100, if you had 200, if you had 7,000, it will import those names into here. So your database can be brought in. And that way you have the email addresses, the way to spell the name, all that type of stuff. Address would all be there. So now you can see I've added more names on here, okay? So that would be the part under Contacts. Now let's go back to the home. So now that we have some people in here, we're going to start doing some business with these people. So under the Home section right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a new transaction. Now when you start a new transaction, there's a couple different options of what you can do. But let's just click Start a New Transaction. Now here, you can start a transaction and you can enter in an address. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I pulled one up that Eric Shippen has on the MLS, so I'm just going to use this one. 3812 East, 120 North, and this is in Rigby. So I'm going to click Property Type. It is residential. Transaction type, I have the buyer, so I don't have both sides, so I'm just going to do a purchase. Then the transaction name, I'm just going to click Same as the address. Okay. That's normally what you would do, is you'd start off like that and it would create a transaction for you. However, this next bottom section is going to let you use a form package. Now a form package is the documents that you would need for that particular transaction. So here it's a purchase. So under here, we can look at the purchase things that are here, and it can be a residential buyer that's a customer, or a residential buyer that's a customer and it needs lead-based paint. I'm going to click onto the next page because there's a few more forms packages. Or it can be here residential with buyer representation, or residential with buyer representation lead-based paint. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that we are representing this buyer in a purchase. So I highlight that, then I'll come down here to create transaction. Now, what it does is it takes that package, and in that package, I, as the broker, I've already put some of the things in there, filled some of the information out, etc., which you can still modify, but at least it has some of the information there started for you in this transaction. So we can see we now have the address and some other information up here. It's not complete, so we're going to come back to that in a second, but then here are the forms that are in there. We have the agency disclosure, the buyer rep, and the purchase and sell agreement. Now, if we're writing up an offer on a property that's listed by somebody else, we can come right up here where it says import property data. Now this is going to be really nice because it's going to take in the legal description, the property address correctly, and other information from the listing. So if we're writing up an offer on somebody else's listing, we can do so. So Steve has a listing out there, let's say. So I'm going to take Steve's information. So I click on here and I click import property data. Now, depending on what MLS you're a member of, you can be a member of more than one, it will give you that option to drag or pull it from that MLS. Now, not everybody understands this. If you're a member of the Pocatello, Greater Pocatello Association of Realtors MLS, you can get free access to the Snake River multiple listing service. You just fill out a form and it's read-only access. You don't get a post listings there unless you pay the fee, but you can read that information. Now, the same thing for those in Upper Valley, Blackfoot, and Idaho Falls that have a membership in the Snake River MLS. And if they want to have read-only access to the Greater Pocatello Association of Realtors MLS, they can fill out a form and get that read-only access. So right here, you can see where it shows. I'm going to click on which MLS. Now, I've got Intermountain MLS, which is Boise, Twin Falls, northern part of Idaho, all that stuff, Intermountain and Snake River. So I'm going to import it from Snake River. And I'm going to enter the MLS ID. So I just go online to the listing and I enter that here. So this particular one is 2128280. So you just put the numbers in, 80, not 9, 80. So you put that in there. And then I'm going to just click on here, import MLS data. Now, there's another thing that you can do. You can do a tax search. So you can pull up the tax search if it's listed as a tax thing and it hasn't been listed before, it's not in there. But I'm going to go ahead and click import MLS data. Now you'll see to the right of the screen how there's no information there right now. So I'm going to click import MLS data. It goes out and it searches the MLS with that MLS number and it starts grabbing the information from that listing and it's going to start importing it for us. Now I've learned that when I'm doing a thing like this, it goes a little slower because it's taking up more bandwidth with all these pictures and things like that. But let's just see how it's going. I click on Import MLS. Wait for it. Dun, 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 dun. So it grabs that information. There it is. So down at the bottom it says, is this the one you're looking at? And it shows the address and I see that's correct. So I click select. Now once I do that, it imports and it shows me the information that we have. Here it has a legal description, the list price when it was listed, the seller's last name, who has it listed right there, and it has some additional information. So what I'm going to do is I'll click down here on the bottom, save information to the transaction. Now by doing this, it's adding all that information and it will fill it out in parts of the form or part of the fields that we have when we fill out our documents. So this is a time-saving feature. And of course, we have to wait a few seconds for it to do that. Okay, so now that it does that, and it's still on our screen, okay, we come back to this page. Now, we still have those forms there, and they're blank forms, but they're slowly being filled out. What we want to do is we now want to go ahead and we're going to take a look and add some more information for the participants. So we're scrolling down, and here's transaction participants. I'll click on that. Now here it shows that the agent working with the seller has their information here, and we can add a buyer tenant information. So here it shows the broker and the agent because it puts my stuff in automatically. But I'll click right above this where it says add buyer or tenant information. Now we normally don't use the tenant side, but this is used for other things. We could do that. So we'll just say add buyer information. So I click on that. It brings it up. Now here I can add a buyer tenant, the first buyer, second buyer, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here and I'm going to click add from contacts. Now this only works if you put in the contacts and we imported them. If not, you're going to manually enter the people in. But for the sake of what we've done, I'm going to click add from contacts. It goes out and it pulls up the people that I have. So all these right up on the top are going to be my contacts. And you can see that I've got 3 pages because I don't have a whole lot of stuff. So I can highlight a person here and I can assign them to be the buyer. So I'm going to take down, let's just go to, I'm going to take Wes. Well, boy, this is going to send an email to him that I'm doing stuff. So let's change this, and I'm going to scroll down to Shannon. So I highlight that, and it puts her down as the buyer for number 1. Now I can select somebody else. I'll choose me, and it puts me down as the buyer for the tenant, and I can go through and do other stuff. I can remove it. But once I have the people assigned, I'll just click add contacts. So now I have a buyer that's assigned, the 2 different buyers that are part of this transaction. Now you look on the top of the page and it shows who those buyers are, Shannon Johnston and Mike Johnston. Now in this case, I didn't put the legal names because I put these shortcut names, so it's not putting everything down. Once I've done that and I've assigned everybody, I'll click save buyer information. Now it saves that information. Now we can see that we have all these different parties here. Great, this is going to work out really well for us. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close that up right now. And I'm going to go ahead and close, I'll come up here to the top and we can see the forms that we have. So now that we have these forms, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at these documents. So I'm going to click the first one, Agency Disclosure Brochure. So I'm looking at this particular one. And there's not a whole lot for us to do on this one. It doesn't take any filling stuff out besides the company name and the phone number on here. So as we see it loading, I can see the first page and I scroll down, and this is where it takes a little while. Each time it loads the second page, our contracts. So here it has the Keller Williams Realty East Idaho and the phone number. So I can see that document. This one's ready. What we want to do is we go through these forms before we're going to send them out to these different people. So I click that and I say it's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and close. Then we'll go to the next one, the buyer representation agreement. Now I click on it. It opens it up. Now as we do this, you're going to say, wow, it's filled out some of the information there. If you don't go, wow, I'll be sad. But just pretend like you go, wow, it filled out some of that information there. So right here, it's put down the agent name. You can see that. And it filled out the broker's name. It put down the buyer's name. Now it doesn't have the date. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go through this. And today is April the 8th. We have that information here. And then we can go ahead and fill out that we're going to have a buyer representation agreement for residential for Bonneville County. Who knows? I might move back to Pocatello. So let's put Bannock. So we have that. In terms of this agreement, so we'll go ahead and we'll start the agreement from today. And we're not going through forms talking about how to fill them out. We're just talking, or the recommendations. So we'll just put down a few things and we'll go through July 4th. And then we see page 1 is good. We'll go to page 2. That puts the names automatically on the top. Has the 2 spots. It has the buyer's initials. So just keep looking through here. Page 3. Now here it defaults under letter A. So it already has something here. Now sometimes people put in here as offered or other stuff, and that's not what we as a company do. So it has the default, but you can always change this if you wanted to. Shows that the property is subject to a listing, 3%, and then right here you can mark down if it's not subject to a listing, and you can put something in here. So I'll go ahead and do that. Has a cancellation fee already put into it. So we can go on to page 4. Now put down the address of the people. Put their address down because it filled it out, and their email address. And then it put information from the brokerage on this side. So once I have all that stuff done, what I want to do is I'm going to click the Save button. So now this document's good. So I'm going to click Save. And it saves that. And once that's saved, I'm going to go ahead and click Close. So we've reviewed that document. Now we're going to go down to the Purchase and Sell Agreement. So here, it opens up the Purchase and Sell Agreement, and we're going to double check and fill some stuff out because it doesn't take everything. It doesn't know what we want to offer and all that type of stuff. So we're going to add all that information in now, at least some of it for the sake of this example. So as it's loading, so right now it doesn't have an ID number. So I'm going to create one, MJJ-2020-4-8-001. It's a pretty cool number. Then under today's date, I'll click down. Today is April the 8th. It has the other information there. It looks okay to me. Now the listing agent, normally we don't want to have a group or something like that. If you know who the agent is, you can correct that. Then down here we have the buyer, address, that type of stuff. Now price, so I can put something in here of what I'm wanting to do on here. So we'll just say 320,000. And it's not contingent. I'm just going to fill out part of the stuff on the first page. It's going to be cashier's check held by the closing company. It's delivered with the offer and to be deposited upon receipt and acceptance. It has the responsible broker. All cash offer, no. Cash proceeds from another sale, no. New loan proceeds. So we can just start filling stuff out here. So we have the information down. Okay, so we just have this down here. Then we go on to the second page and third page, go through all the different pages and make those changes or corrections that you want. Okay, included items, put those down, excluded items. Etc., etc. All right. Now, there are certain things here that if you had clauses, up here on the top, we have clauses that you can insert. So if I wanted to add something right here into this part, I'd click on it where I want it to come. And I come up here and I can highlight one of the different clauses that are there. Now, you can create clauses later on, things that you're always saying or always typing down into the contract, and you can do that. Here we have just a couple, like a buyer exclusion on a listing or a transaction fee on a listing. We're talking about earnest money. Here we have the buyer representation agreement. You can put certain things down about COVID-19, or on the listing, you can put COVID-19 information. Now, those clauses are there for the older documents. If you're doing a new listing or new buyer rep, these clauses are already in there, but I'm just showing you for an example how that would work. Okay, so now we have everything done on this particular document that we want to. So we come up here and we click Save. I didn't go to the very last page, but on the very last page, it put the buyer's names on there as well and their address. So when they sign, it has all that information there. Now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and close. Now, when Joe was on here a little while ago, I think he's off now because he was driving to an appointment. Sometimes we have people that are a little bit not high tech, right? Anybody here, and I can see your faces, but anybody here still use somebody that maybe you need to fax something to? Okay, so if you're going to fax something, here's how you would fax this. You have the documents done. Now you're going to send them off to somebody so that they can go ahead and sign this. So what we're going to do is first off, look at our forms, our documents. What do we want to send? So I'm going to highlight all three of those. I could hit the top square and it marks them all, but I just want to do those three. Then right here we have e-sign, print, email, fax, merge, and other stuff. So I'm going to click on the fax button. So when I click on the fax number or fax, it says, who do you want to find? And I can type in here, Mike Johnston, fax number 208-991-0900. Then I put down the message, Mike, call me when you get this, ... And then I click send fax. And that's all there is to it. So you can send this to somebody. Now, here's the thing I like about this. Right, about a year ago, I had somebody that I had to send a fax to. It was my insurance company, and it was Blue Cross of Idaho. I had to fax in a document. I thought that was the craziest thing. I couldn't email it to them. So if you have a document that you need to fax to somebody, you could scan it, put it in, email it to yourself, whatever you need to do it, have it here, and you can send a fax off. But for this particular one, I just sent a fax off to the other agent, to the seller, whoever it was. Now, so that's faxing. How about email? So I have those same three documents highlighted, and I just want to email this to somebody. They want to look at it. They don't want to sign it electronically. So I just come up here and I click email. Now I can choose who I want to send that to. So I'm going to choose name. Or I can click over here for the person's stuff. And did that. And then subject. Offer. Something like that. And I can put in a message. Whatever I want to do. I can send myself a copy, disable stuff, and then I just go ahead and click send email. Now the problem was I did this wrong up here. So I'll click on the contacts. And I'm going to choose Mike. So I can highlight that one, then it puts the information down. Okay, so I have that information. I can click send email. Now when it faxes or when it sends an email, it combines all three of those documents together into one. Of course, on a fax, that makes sense. But on an email, even though you highlight three separate documents, it's creating all of them into one document. So they get it in one regard. Okay, so that's the email part. Now the third one is going to be the e-sign. Here's where we're going to spend a little bit of time. So I have the three documents highlighted, and I'm going to click e-sign. Now this is where it makes it really simple for you when you're sending the document off, and especially in this particular transaction. Now here it shows down that the seller's agent is Eric. The buyer is Shannon, the buyer is Mike, and then the buyer's agent is Michael. Now I know there's two of those, but that's why I have just the name Mike when I assigned it earlier under the contacts. So I assigned who the buyers were. Now who do I want to select here to have signed this document? I'm going to say the buyer and the buyer. I don't have anything that I need the listing agent to sign or me as the selling agent. So I'm just going to highlight those two. Now over here on the right, I click create new session or use DocuSign. So on Friday, we'll cover this. So if I click use DocuSign, it will send the documents over into DocuSign for me, and we'll cover that on Friday. So let's just go ahead and use FormSimplicity. So I'm going to click create a new session. Now when it does this, it's going to go ahead and get everything ready to go, look at those documents, and it automatically knows all the fields that those two buyers need to fill out. So this is what this is why it's advantageous to use FormSimplicity for this particular signing session. As it's loading and it's creating those documents, it's putting down everything that we need to do there. Okay, so on here it has this, it shows the transaction name and it says it needs a title. So I'm going to put down here for our subject in our email, offer on, and the address was 3812 East 120 North. So I put down that. We have the transaction already highlighted. Then I can put in an email message here. Mike, comma, call me when you get this so I can review it with you. Okay, then off on the right, it says send to one signer at a time in order, or send it to all signers at once. Well, if one person's faster than the other for signing, you send it to that person and you can change the order. Or you can go ahead and send it to everybody at once, and then they all sign it, then it comes back, and then once the document's completely signed by everybody, everybody gets a copy. All we're doing is signing. We're not filling out any blanks or anything, so it's okay to do it either way. I normally say send to one signer at a time. And then session options, I'm not going to be a signer. I'm not going to let them delegate it to somebody else. I'm going to send a CC of email of the final documents as an attachment to the people. That way they get a PDF. They don't have to log back on to get it. And set reminders. Now, if it's listing paperwork, sometimes I'll set a reminder. Where it's an offer, we're kind of at a time crunch already, so I'm not going to put down send a reminder every day on this. But on the other side, if I needed something signed, I could do that. Once I've done that, and here you can see the different things that we're going to do and go across. Once I've done that, I click next right here. Now it's going to go into, oh, it says a CC email is required. I'm bad when I said send me an email. So johnston@kw.com. We'll use that one today. Click next. Now here it says, who are the signers? It defaults the ones that we had already chosen. I can change the order of who I want to have sign, etc. So I've got Shannon and I've got Mike, those two people there. Okay, they're fine. So I'll go ahead and the order says 1 and 2. So I'll click next. Now it says, what's the documents we're going to do? So these are the 3 documents that I want right here, these 3 right here. And the order, agencies find, and the buyer rep, and the purchase and sell agreement. Now I have it in that order because we're supposed to make sure that they've had the blue brochure at the first substantial business contact. The buyer representation agreement, if we're going to represent somebody on the purchase and sell agreement, we have to have that filled out ahead of time. So that's why I have it in this order for just right now. Now that we've done that, I'll click next. Now it's going to say, well, what are the signing locations on these particular documents that we need to send? So it's going to go ahead and show us that. Again, here's the 3 documents that we have. And of course, I could add more documents if I needed to add them, right here where it says add files. Okie dokie. Normally it just takes me to the next spot. I might have missed something. Let's go back to the signers. See if I skipped something for some reason. Okay, so I've got those 2 different people. That's correct. So next. Okay, this is what I was supposed to do. Add signers. So buyer number 1, we want to put down Shannon. Buyer number 2, we're going to put down Mike. Now here it had the names already because we added those in earlier. And the other roles I'm not going to put down. We can add additional signers if I needed to with their first name, last name, and email address. We just have those 2 and I click next. It says there's some spots on the form that are not filled out. Should I remove those? Yes. Those fields are for the seller. We don't represent the seller. We're not working with the seller, so we're not going to send this to the seller. We have that information there. Great. It has the documents. We're going to click next. Now here's the signing locations. Now on the top left, it shows who the signer is. So right now we're going to look at all the spots for Shannon to sign. So we look at this first document. We scroll down and it says, oh, she needs to sign right there. And it also shows that Mike is going to sign and it shows the date. Okay, that's all right. Then here on this next one, it has the initials for both of the parties and the dates. I agree with that. That's good. Then here, oh, this is the one that people forget. Now, it has spots for people on both of the agency things. You don't want to send this so they initial both, because now you have a bad contract. They're supposed to choose one or the other. So on here, to the side of it, what you can do is you can remove, by clicking that little X, the spot. Now it's not letting me change. Oh, here we go. So I got rid of both of those. So when I explain it to the people, I can explain the importance of initialing this one, but they still get the option if they want the other one, but we're not going to have them do that here. And I go through to the other pages on here. So we're not changing anything, we're just making sure the signature spots. Now here I could have it come back to me as an agent so I can sign this too. Maybe I should have done that, but I didn't. But that's another option that you have. And here's the purchase and sell agreement. And we have the initials here, and it goes through the whole entire document. I'm just going to scan through it really quick and get to the last page. So we have the information right here for them to sign. So once we've reviewed that and it's okay, we're going to click next. Okay, now preview. Now we've changed and put down all the signing spots. We can go through the document one more time if we wanted to and just look at everything, but we just basically did. But if we needed to add signing spots or initials, we could have done that before. So I'm going to click next. Then it says, okay, we're ready to go. Everything's fine. Let's go ahead and send this off. Are you ready to do so? It has my email that I wrote. Mike, call me when you can review this. And I just come over here and I click finish. Now when I do that, it sets up a signing session. And it shows me the signing session information here. It shows the pending invite's gone to Shannon and also to Mike. And it's been sent off, and it shows me the time frame for everything and the documents that are there. There's 4 different signing locations on this one, 18 on that one, and 38 on that one. And all those have been sent. Okay? Now we're just waiting for these people. Typically when I send something off, they're expecting it. Don't ever send something to somebody that's not expecting it. So if you've written up a listing, etc., tell them that it's on its way. Right now, I'm hoping that they'll call me. If not, I'll call them and we can go through and I can walk them through and explain everything. One of the big complaints I get as a broker is people say, I didn't know anything about that. I just clicked through it and sent it off. I didn't know that's what it meant. Our jobs as licensees are to make sure that people understand what it is that they're signing. Now, if you're an assistant or you're doing something for somebody else and you're not licensed, you can't explain where they're signing, but you can still help somebody by filling this information out and have the agent do that discussion with them on the phone. Okay, so that's the screen right here. Now that this particular screen's done, let's go back and take a look at our page that we had here with FormSimplicity. So I'm going to go back to that particular transaction. Now on this transaction, we can see the documents there. They're still sitting here. Nothing's come back, so we don't have anything. But we can come down here to the very bottom where it says History. Now in the History section, it's going to show us all the things that we did. We sent off an offer for e-signing, and it shows that when it was sent, date and time, 4:33. Now this is Eastern time. Maybe I should have changed my settings so it does that. I thought I had. Also, we emailed off those 3 documents, and it shows those 3 documents were emailed to this. And we faxed off those 3 documents earlier here. Then we went through and we reviewed those documents and did stuff and created it, and I can go to page 2 and look at more. So here it has a history of the things that you did for this particular transaction. Now, those documents that were sent off, once the person comes back and has signed it, I can come up here to the e-sign sessions, and I can see that this one's going, so it's not done yet. Status is sent. Once they're signing, it'll say that. But I can also go into my email history, and I can take a look. Oh, I sent off that email to so-and-so on the offer that was done. So you can see all the different little things that you did that are here. Okay, so that answers that particular question. We took a look at all the history that are there. So we created a paperless transaction. We went through the package. We imported the MLS and the tax data. So we're able to do that, as you can see here, the tax data. It syncs the data across all the forms, because when we fill out who the transaction participants are here, it fills in all the blanks on all the different forms that we have. So that makes it easier for us there. Forms packages. We went in and we selected a forms package. Now, there might be a time that you want to add just one form, or in this particular transaction right now, I want to add a form. I need to have a counteroffer. I can click on add a form and I can go grab that form and put it in here. Now, when I do so with any other form that I add, it's going to already fill in the buyer and seller information, the property address, all the stuff that's related to this transaction. So it's going to make it simpler for us. Okay, so that would be the forms packages and bringing in forms in the forms library. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you just the blank forms real quick. So if we come up here to blank forms, you can take a look at these, or you can print something off if you wanted to email a blank form if you needed to do so. Now, right now, I have more things in the library. Each one of you will be different. You'll have the company forms, which will show all the different things that we've put together. I'm part of the Greater Pocatello Association of Realtors, so I have their forms. Idaho would be the state of Idaho forms, so all of us have that. The Intermountain MLS, because I'm part of Ada County, Boise, those things, I have that one. And then Fannie Mae, and you should all have that as well. So let's just go and take a look at the company forms. In the company forms, there's additional things here that you may need: the commission disbursement, lead disclosure, receipt of earnest money, the referral form, request to cancel a listing, request to withdraw a listing. It has those different little things here for you, and the utility request form. So you can have different forms that are in here that you might need. So this is a place where you can go to get those. Now, under the Idaho forms, this is where we pull up all the purchase and sale agreements, the listing agreements, the other things, the lead-based paint disclosure brochure, the COVID-19 addendum, all those things. Now, these are all up to date in here because the Idaho Association of Realtors keeps them up to date. So you can see those forms here. So if you ever needed one of those, you've got it. Now, there's a difference between the agency disclosure buyer and agency disclosure seller. It's the same exact form, it's just the signing field is different. So that's why when you use these transactions or you pull something into a form package, you want to make sure you grab the right document because it'll have the filling or the signing spots different. All right? So that would be the different forms that you have there, the forms library. Clauses. Well, let's go take a look. That's the forms library. Right here's forms packages. Now, under forms packages, there are the defaults that are already created, and it says brokerage wide, but you can also create some personal one. Now, what you can do here is under the personal ones, you could have one that you start from the brokerage wide that's residential buyer with buyer representation. So you can start with that, and then you can fill it out with your name and all the information that you typically would put into a contract. And then when you do that, you can save that as a personal form package. So when you start off your transaction, you select your personal transaction package, and it will be filled out the way that you want it to be. Your email address, your name spelled correctly. If there's a certain clause you normally put into everything, like I'm the coolest agent ever, you can have all that stuff be in there, and it will default with that. Okay? So that would be the forms packages, and they'll be shown up under the personal side. The last thing up here would be clauses. Now with the clauses, if there are certain things that you type in on a consistent basis. Now, there are some people that like to put in the contract, all things must be in working order at the time of closing. Don't put that in there, please, but some people type certain things in there all the time that they use. So if there's a clause, you can write up a clause, and it says right here, add new clause, and you write it down and you create it, and here's what they're titled. So brokerage wide, we have these, and you can take a look at it. Like on this particular one, if you have a buyer exclusion, sometimes you'll have a listing and they say we want to exclude this particular buyer. So here's the preview of what the clause says. In the event that Mike and Sue Jones makes an acceptable offer by 5 p.m. on such and such a date, then the brokerage fee would be reduced to blank %. If they make an acceptable offer after 5:01 p.m. on that same date, then the brokerage fee would be the full amount. So there's different little things that we can have there. Sometimes if someone needs a clause, I can put one there, and it can be used brokerage wide for everybody if it needs to be something. So that would be the clauses. And we already talked about the contacts, so that's one thing to do, is make sure you enter contacts in there if you want to have them be added or save you some time. If not, you don't need to. You can add them one at a time as you do a transaction, and you can add those people in there. That way you know for sure you have the name spelled correctly, etc. Okay? So with that in mind, let's go back to the very beginning of our page. So now we have just the one transaction that's here. And it shows the status and settings that you have. So anytime you come into here, you just click on that particular transaction. You can go back in, modify things, adjust whatever you need to do. If you need to add a RE10 because you're doing an inspection, you can add that. But always go through and make sure that everything is correct on here. Right here, the status, it says new. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that it is an active. If it was a listing, pending listing, closed, expired, withdrawn, whatever status I need to do. Then once I've done that, and this closes out, I can archive the transaction so it doesn't show up on that list anymore. Now this is instant. I always say that wrong. This is FormSimplicity. Now this is not where you submit it to the broker for the transaction to be reviewed. And that's why we use command for that. We would really like to have it all be in one spot, but we're getting many of the documents over into command, but they're not as easily filled out like this was. Many of them are, and we're getting them switched to be able to do so, but there's a lag time in getting those forms there ready to go compared to what the state association has done. In July, when the new forms come out, this place will be up to date as soon as they're available, where we have to submit the forms to have them be compiled and filled out and done into Command and DocuSign.